The word pet, if you take, because we use the words very frequently, companion animal, pet animals, okay? So when you take that word pet, which has a close relationship with the Scottish or French language. So if you go with the Scottish origin, so that word is petty. If you go with the French origin, it is petite. Okay. So what exactly it means, let us see it. But otherwise, the origin of that word pet has come from either Scottish or French. So in case of French, if you take that word petite, which is referred as a small children, okay, or small sized companion animals. And such things we call it as a pet. Even dogs also we can call them as a pet, not animal, at least pet or pets, you can very well tell them. So it means that smaller sized. In true sense also, if you take any animal which acts as a companion animal, pet animal, mostly they are the smaller than us. The cattle, if you take buffalo, you may get attachment with those animals, but they never become a pet animal. You may develop some emotional attachment with the sheep and goat, but still they never become a pet animal. Okay. So generally we say that pet means small sized. And this word pet, which suggests that it's nothing but a companion. Because that pet, which is considered to be small, and that animal will try to spend maximum time in and around you. So that's why we call it as a companion. So from pet to a companion animal. So words are very clear. Pet can be any animal which is in close vicinity or close association with you. Companion animal may not be all the time close association with you. It may not stay with you well within your house or well within your bedroom. Okay, not necessary. Okay. So, however, that pet animal seems to be indispensable in conveying the relationship of intimacy between the human and selected domestic species. It means that the word itself says that companion means all the time you are with it. Pet means all the time there is a mutual communication or affection, love is going on between that animal, which can be any species, and human being. Okay. So it tells about the strong bondage between the animal and human being. Okay. So that itself is called as a companion animal. So is it that all the domestic animals are companion animals? And similarly, all the companion animals are domestic animals? Not necessary. Okay. So let us differentiate. Okay. A pet or a companion animal is an animal kept primarily for a person's company or entertainment rather than as a working animal. So here itself, it makes very clear that they are different from the domestic, because domestic animal means there is some self-interest, purpose, or you are going to exploit something in the form of input and output. But if you take the pet animal or companion animals, we never calculate any cost benefit ratio. Okay. So there is no way you have a comparison with that money and the pet animal. But in case of domestic animals, always there is an economics. Therefore, the companion animals are domesticated or domestic bred animals whose physical, emotional, behavioral, and social needs can be readily met as a companion in the home or in close daily relationship with the human beings. It is not that it's only your interest. Even the animal which you are going to keep with you should also get the same entertainment, same company, same emotion from the owner also. Okay, then only we call it as a companion animal. Now, what are all companion animals, or you can say who are all we can call them as a companion animals? So there is a wide range, and this may change from place to place, change from state to state, country to country, continent to continent. Okay, so there is n number of species which you can call them as a pet animals. Suppose if you go to northeast, your pig can be a pet animal. Other states, it may not be. Similarly, if you take reptiles in the European and American countries, reptiles are also raised as a pet animals. However, if you take birds, mostly they are considered as a pet birds throughout the world, almost same. Okay, but there is certainly a difference between other species. Even then, for easy understanding and for the sake of course, we consider two most popular pets as dogs and cats. Although horse, rabbits, parrots, birds, guinea pigs, small animals, reptiles, fish, everything, all these animals, they fall under the companion animals, but still for course sake, we'll try to restrict to dogs and cats. Okay. So now, when you say companion animals, all the owners may not have the same instinct or the same affinity, same love or same bondage with a dog and cat equally. Some people may like only dogs. Some people may not like cat at all. Some people like only cats, but not the dogs. Okay. So it depends upon their instinct and their nature. Okay. If you see the technical terms, those who love the cats, they are called as ailurophile. Those who love the dogs, they are called cynophile. So these are the two typical terminologies they are used in the scientific reports. Although we said that these animals, they are kept as a companion animals, or you can say, we said that we are not keeping these animals with any self-interest or any for the earning purpose, but still we have some, you can say, needs, or you can say something you require from them in any form. Okay. So that's why we need to know what is the purpose of keeping these companion animals. So if you take companion animals, they may provide both physical and emotional benefits to the caretaker, or you can say for the whole family. And when you take the uses of companion animals, you can list too many things, and it varies from owner to owner. But let us discuss one after another, which will cover all of them. Okay. First one is, it should provide both physical and emotional benefits to the family or the caretaker. Okay. So let us assume that there is a owner who is maintaining dog or cat. When he wants to go for the walk, he will take dog along with him. So thereby, you will get exercise, fresh air, and social interaction. But as a human being, so there is a possibility of break, or there is a possibility of discontinuity, because there is no compulsion. But with the time, the dog develops an habit and it demands the walk. So in that compulsion, so he is bound to take that dog for the walk, and indirectly both are benefited. Pets can also give as a company or companionship to the people who are living alone or elderly adult who do not have adequate social interaction with the other people, particularly in the cities nowadays, because of nuclear family, because of wife and husband working outside. Okay, sometimes children may have to stay alone, right, from the evening till late night. Similarly, parents who are staying along with the children, so they may have to spend alone whole day, so they prefer to have dog or cat. And those animals will give good company or companionship to these people, because these animals reciprocate. Why these two animals have become so much affinity to the human being? Because they reciprocate compared to all other animals, right? These two animals, they reciprocate very quickly. So thereby, human beings develop that bondage. Sometimes medically, these dogs have proved that keeping dogs in the hospital have helped for the quick recovery. Many times it has proven. Okay. So, but those dogs are trained dogs, or sometimes those dogs which have been trained for a specific activity, so that when you bring such dogs to the hospital for a particular psychology people, whenever owners have a psychological problem, for such people, interacting with the dogs during the treatment, not on a conventional basis or day-to-day basis, during the treatment, so that will help in hastening or healing, or it will help in quick heal or fastens the healing process. Okay. And pets, certainly they protect the home or property. It's a very general use, okay? Whether you want it or you don't want it. In addition to all those helps, by default, when dog is sitting outside your house, when someone stranger comes to your house, certainly it will try to prevent either by barking or reciprocating with the strange person. So during that time, owner can come and see that who exactly the person is, okay? So in addition to these, there are some specific advantages. It may help in assistance, okay, in a specific department, service, and also emotional support to the needy people. So the same thing which has been explained elaborately. But assistance and service, they are very specific jobs, okay? Assistance animals, any animal that works, provides assistance or performance, okay, for the benefit of persons with a disability, or provides an emotional support to alleviate one or more identified symptoms of effect of person's disability. Means, suppose one person is there who seems to be handicapped, okay? For every now and then he may need some small petty things, okay, but he cannot get up and get the items. It can be a newspaper, it can be any needy item, it can be a specs. If you train your dog for getting such items, so every now and then you need it, at that time this particular dog will assist in getting these items, okay? So that is a great help. Service, particularly in the army or in the police department, or even for the disabled person, particularly blind people, okay? Any dog that is individually trained to do work or perform for the benefit of an individual with a disability, including physical, sensory, psychiatric, intellectual, or any mental disability, okay? So in during that time, so these dog will assist during the navigation, means from bringing that blind person or psychiatric person or person who has got mental ability or disability rather, okay, to from one place to another place. It can be from your home to a park or from the park to your home, from your home to hospital and vice versa. So like that, it may help as assistance. Similarly, they may also be trained for detecting the bombs or any unusual things. And in the same way, they are used in the defense as well as in the police department, particularly for the theft, okay, for the detection of bombs, many things, so depending upon the training. So these dog will help or intervene in getting the things done. Okay. Emotional support, already I told you the same thing. Therapy, already I told you the same thing. Okay, so likewise, there are so many advantages are there with the companion animals. Class is even. Okay. So now let us see the population of pet and companion animals. So although there is no trend to watch the population of dog and cat, okay, unlike domestic animals, but still for a government agency, particularly corporations, whether it can be a BBMP in Bangalore, okay, so Delhi Corporation, Bombay Municipality Corporations, for these people, always they come across the dog menace, particularly street dog menace, okay. So naturally, they need to keep accountability on the pet populations. So thereby, you can keep the account of dog population in the country. So in the year 2018, the population was 19.5 million, okay, out of which the 80% of these are dogs, followed by cats and then smaller animals like fish and birds. And it is estimated that in 2023, so now it is almost 24, okay, that may reach 31 million from 19.5, okay. And the population of pet cats in India accounted to be nearly 2 million in the year 2018 and increased to 2.5 million by the end of 2023, okay. So this is a trend only. It is not the exact number. This is not the exact number because it's very difficult to count the street dogs or you can say stray dogs. But still it is in data, so you need to remember. So now another topic in your syllabus, that is evolutionary history. So now why only dog and cat have become so closely associated with the human beings? Why not other species? It is not that only these two species they come across during the evolution of human beings. No. Prior to that, pig was there along with that, okay. Wolves were there, wild dogs were there, many other species, they came close to human being, but they did not stay longer, okay. Only these two species, they stayed very close to human beings and still they continue to be close to human beings. So if you see the evolutionary history, okay, prior to that also many other species, they encountered human beings. They have come very close to human beings, but they did not stay long. So that's why we never call them as a companion animals. So you can very well ask, why not other species? Okay, this is the reason. Okay, let us see one by one how these animals have evolved. So dogs were the first domesticated animals cooperating with the humans by hunting and guarding. Even during the earlier stage also, the dogs were used for the hunting purpose, okay, so thereby they remained close to the human beings. In contrast, cats were domesticated as the predators of rodent and lived near human habitation when the humans began to settle and farm. Okay? Means when there was no settlement, okay, when before you can say the civilization, the same human beings were staying in the forest and they were not settling at one place. They were moving from one place to another place depending upon the availability of food. During that time, they carried dog along with them, and that dog helped in hunting. But gradually, they started settling at one place. Very short period maybe, but they started settling at one place. When they started settling at one place, either with the hut or bush or cave, whatever it may be, so when they start settling at one farm, they need to store something, whether it's a meat, grains, whatever it may be. So since when they started storing the eatable items, then rodents started attacking those stored items. Okay. So that time cats came for the rescue. So now cats came very close to human being, not as a cooperation purpose or for any other help, but rather for the protection of their food items. And these cats, they started hunting the rodents, which they were menace for the human beings in the settlement area. Okay. So this is the two difference between the cat and dog domestication. Dogs and cats have been domesticated through different process. Although we say dog and cat as a pet animals, but their ideology, their thinking, their method of being with the human beings, they're entirely different. That we'll see later. Okay. Means that process is entirely different. We'll be discussing. The coexistence between dogs and cats along with the human is based on the non-verbal communication. Okay, and that we call it as a gaze. Gaze is an important signal for the humans and describe the communicative function of the dogs and cat's eyes. Okay, cat's eyes gaze behavior with the humans. We mean to say that if you see the earlier period before civilization, we did not add any language at all. Okay, even till days, if you go to a typical tribal, they don't have any specific script language. Okay, so now we are training dog. Okay, we are telling to dog go, get, fetch, sit, don't do. So these type of communications we are using with the dog. But before civilization, okay, when there was no other verbal communication, only the eye contact was the method of communication. So that we call it as a gaze. Means making eye-to-eye contact, and based on their response, they interacted, whether it is human being or dog, or similarly cat and human beings. And that non-verbal communication, we call it as a gaze. And if you see the domestication process, okay, dog first domesticated approximately 15,000 years ago. However, cats were domesticated 10,000 years ago. And mainly, I told you, in case of dog, they assisted in hunting and guarding, whereas cats, they help in prevention of these losing items by the rodents, and that cat came as a rescue. Dogs were the first selected because of their reduced stress response to humans, and then for the useful of their cooperation with the human beings. It means that whenever you have responded to the dog, whether it is aggressively or non-aggressively, okay, but dog has not responded very quickly, okay, means they did not yield as a stress to the human beings. So that's why they remain still close to it. Because if that were to be taken as a stress factor, then dogs wouldn't have stayed along with the human beings because they would have felt as a threat. Anything reciprocative by the human beings in the form of aggressive behavior would have been taken as a stress by the dog and they wouldn't have stayed along with the human. But they did not. Because of that reduced stress response to human beings, the dog became the first domesticated animals. Okay. However, cats were not artificially selectively bred. Means in the process of this domestication, when dogs came very close to human beings, okay, so when there is the establishment of small population, when there was the establishment of small population, naturally there is a choosiness by the owner or by the human beings. So with the limited population, they started breeding and thereby the progeny which they started getting were the improved version of the dog population which they had. But such scenario was not there in case of cats. So that's why they most of the times remained as a wild. If you take a small population, dog population, which has already lost the stress response to human beings, and when you breed two such dogs, naturally progeny will be more responsive or more, you can say, what you can say, docile than their parents. But in case of cats, it did not happen. Okay. And the last point, wolves sharing a common ancestors with the dogs have developed a greater ability to cooperate than the dogs, but wolves only display intra-specific cooperation. But here also one exception, they are stating that wolves did the same job as dog. Means still they had developed a greater ability to cooperate than the dogs, but still did not continue the human beings because they displayed the intra-specific cooperation. Means they did not cooperate with the other populations. Only within the population they express that cooperation. But in case of dog, it is not so. Okay. In case of cats, if you see, the ancestor of cats is wild cats, which are mostly solitary, territorial animals. Okay, like that of any village. So wherever you see solitary animals or territorial animals, mostly they are non-social animals. Okay, naturally you cannot expect any social behavior with the human beings. You take example of leopard, you take example of lion, tiger, or any wild cat family. Okay, so all those dogs mostly they are territorial and solitary. Only breeding time they come together and again they get separated. So that's why they did not come very close to the human beings. So what we discussed till now was the evolutionary process, because in your syllabus it is very clearly mentioned evolutionary and domestication. So now domestication process. See, there was a time when even human beings before become civilized, he was also wild, isn't it? Similarly, when he was wild, the dogs were also wild. Now human beings have become domesticated, or you can say civilized, and those dogs have become domesticated from the wild conditions. Okay, how this has happened along with the human being, because it's a simultaneous process. Okay, so let us discuss that one. Dog use their sense of smell, hearing, touch, and eyesight to communicate with the human beings. So when we say five senses, in case of human beings, the another comes is taste. Okay, but that communication is for yourself because you are able to express. But in case of dog, with the human beings, there is no question of tasting. Okay, but certainly it will also help because sometimes the dogs are also used for checking whether that food item is edible or any dangerous item. Okay, till date nowadays, even in the airport, many places they use it. But otherwise, by and large, for general communication, the taste is not one of the method of communication. Otherwise, rest for smell, hearing, touch, and eyesight. These are the four senses which they help in communicating with the human beings. The dogs and cats are sensitive to gaze. Already I told you, okay, which human use as a form of non-verbal communication. And subsequently, with this gaze, they help in formation of bond, which is beyond the communication. It means that in the beginning, so you need to make eye contact, you need to make interact too many times for what you want, or for dog what it exactly wants from you. But after establishment of that bondage, then many things go behind the communications. You will become a part of, you or the dog will become part of it. By just mere seeing without making eye contact, they are able to guess your behavior, and you are also able to guess dog's behavior without making any eye contact. But in the beginning, the gaze, which is one of the important communication with the human beings. So what happens in the gaze? What happens in case of gaze? Okay, you see, when you can see the right side photograph, when dogs eyes meet humans eyes and hold gaze, and similarly vice versa. When human makes a gazing to the dog's eye, so there is a release of oxytocin both in the human being and in the dog. And that hormonal bonding loop, when it happens repeatedly, then it leads to a type of bondage. So this gaze communication for the cat, if you take, like previously what we discussed, it is for the dog. And if you take gaze communication for the cats, so here little bit different. Okay, let us discuss. The ancestor of cats lived alone. As I told in the beginning, they are territorial. They are solitary animals. Therefore, they may not have needed the ability to read the gaze of other individuals as much as species that hunted in prove. Okay. Even if you take today, if you take dogs ancestor, that is wild dog, wolves, jackals. Okay. So these all animals hunt any their predators are okay in the group only, but all whether it's a small cat or cat family, they hunt individually, except lion, which is considered to be a social animal related to other two big cats. Okay, so cats detect human gaze with the head movement and accordingly change their behavior. It means that the way dog make eye contact with the human being continuously, dog cannot maintain that gazing continuously with the human beings. Okay, it changes head movement. It changes this side and that side. Again, it tries to make contact. Again, it changes this side and that side because of that phobia. Because it's a solitary animal. When a familiar human and cat spends time in the same room, the cat's behavior was observed in response to the familiar human gaze. Means when it spends considerable time with the same person again in the same environment, then that gazing become more stronger. Okay, there is an example here. Cats looked at a familiar human for a shorter duration when the cats were directed gaze than when the cats were not, suggesting that unlike dogs, they exhibit the behavior of avoiding a familiar gaze, and cats may see human gaze. Means basically all cat family, they may avoid eye to eye contact. Even till date, wild animals, if you take, whether it is a big cat or small cat, still they make eye to eye contact, they avoid it. Only because of that threat, when it crosses behind the flight zone, okay, when there is a possibility of threatening, then only the cat family will attack human beings. Otherwise, they don't attack. Rather, before you run away from the spot, they run away. Okay. So now let us differentiate between the dog and cat with respect to gaze communication, which is one of the important communicative non-verbal between the human and these two species. Okay. So what happens? Dog to the human response, let us see. So response to human gaze, they stole food less often because उनको डर नहीं है, उनको कहीं threatening नहीं लग रहा है, इसलिए जब जरूरत होगा सामने it will keep sitting and watching the food and it wait for the order or the signal from the owner to take the food. So it does not demand the stealing of food. But in case of cat, it is not sure whether the owner will allow you to eat or not. Because of that instinct, it may steal the food every now and then because it avoids eye contact with the human beings. Dogs obeyed more commands of their owners and they fetched the toy that humans could see in the situation with the two toys and increased the attention getting behavior, selected food from the humans who looked at them. See, you might, those particularly who already got a dog with you. So naturally, one typical behavior of dog is that they try to grab your attention by any means. If you neglect it, it will come and sit you. It will try to make all possible behavior to make you awake or aware that you should spend little time with the dog. Particularly when you get into the house, in the beginning, it certainly expects some attention, but it's not so cat. Even if it is a home-reared cat, okay, so it does not come and run and attack on you, or rather attack means it will show some, what you can say, the feelingness, or you can say love affection to you, the way dog does, okay. Cat will sit in the corner of the house and it will watch you, okay. Unless you come close to that, the cat, it will not respond. This is the difference between dog and cat. Next, using human signals. So used human pointing in the task of selecting two container, used human gaze direction with the pointing in the task, looked in the direction directed by the human gaze, followed the container. It means that one is communication, another is you need not communicate with the dog. Simply if you see towards a one container which is lying just in front of you on the right side, just you see towards that container which is present on the right, the dog simply will understand that something, this person is giving signal, I should go near the container. Similarly, there are two containers or two toys, left and right, or maybe front and back. If you see simply back side, it will simply run away towards the toy which is present behind you. Okay. So, but this does not happen in case of cat. Okay. This is the difference. When it comes to social reference, looked alternately at the food and the owner when it could access the food, looked alternately at the strange object and the owner. Means it waits for your command or you can say signal. Okay. Unless you say that eat or unless you say get, okay, it will just see at the food, it will keep quiet. It see at the food, it will keep quiet. Okay. But in case of cat, though you kept food in front of the cat, cat did not look alternately at the food and the owner when it could not access the food. Looked alternately at the strange object and the owner. Means it does not prioritize at all. It does not prioritize because in case of dog, it sees, it wants to eat, but still it waits for the human signal. But in case of cat, suppose there is no food, okay, you are eaten somewhere else, so it simply keep quiet. Okay, if there is a strange object, it will not wait for your signal to for the cat to get that strange item or attack. Okay, simply it watches. Okay, this is the difference. The role of gaze in bond formation, which I told you already in the beginning. The moment they make eye-to-eye contact, there is a release of oxytocin, both in the human beings and in the dog, and subsequently it develop a type of bondage. But in case of cat, eye blink synchronization during the mutual grazing means they cannot make continuous eye contact without any closure of eyes. Okay, so that's why there is no consistency in the release of oxytocin. So due to this gaze communication, the end of the day, ultimately it helps in the bond formation. Okay, dogs and cats can distinguish between the signal based on the human emotions. Dogs change their behavior depending upon the emotional state of humans. Dogs also distinguish between the emotional state and the facial expression. Dog and cats can distinguish between the signal-based human emotions that would found to be a foundation for the emotion bond. Voice and smell that may contribute to the bond formation, but not the way it is with the done with the eyesight. Okay, first comes eyesight, then voice, then smell. The same thing, it has been little bit elaboratedly given in the diagrammatic form. Okay, so as we are telling, during the evolutionary process, wolves were there with the human beings for the same hunting purpose, but they dropped in between. I told you because they expressed intraspecific bondage, but not with the human beings. Then later came dog in the picture, and in the end of the day, these dogs, with the help of gaze, voice, and smell, they develop that bondage. Similarly, if you take the cat, because of that fear, anxiety to humans, and because of that solo hunting habit or solitary, because of no cooperation with the human beings, and always they avoided with the human gaze. Okay. So at the end of the day, the bonds are facilitated and modulated by gaze, voice, and smell. All are questionable. Means still now we don't know which has helped the cat to become close to human beings. But at least in case of dog, it is very much clear. You can see in the top, gaze, we are not put question mark, but voice and smell. Although they do contributed, but gaze is on the first priority. Okay. So end of the day, the same thing we discussed in the previous slide. So the changing the behavior in response to human gaze, using human gaze signals for the food location, gaze alteration in the unfamiliar situation, synchronization of eye blinks. So these are all a type of a behavior change in the behavior indicating the bond formation, okay, with the dog and cat. So this is last slide. So now we told you evolution, then we told domestication, then we told bond formation. Based on your intimacy with the dog, so different categories of dogs we can call house dogs. Okay, dog, house, yard dogs, nomads, and mongrels. So they are all self-explanatory, depending upon the close. House dogs means, you see, they are kept inside, either they are tied or loose, but close proximity with the human being. That's why they are called house dogs. Dog, house, yards means they are domesticated dogs. They have a freedom. They can come inside, outside, but they are not allowed to stay inside the house. Okay? Yard dogs means they cannot come inside at all. Nomads means no owner at all. Mongrels, they are nothing but the stray dogs. So now very much different. Just like house dogs means 24/7 inside the house. Certainly for a short period they can come outside. So all the domestic dogs, or you can say pure breeds which we see today, they are called as a house dogs. House dog, house yard, or you can say yard dogs, mostly they spend maximum time outside, but certainly they can come inside and they have a little bit freedom. Third category, they don't have freedom to come inside at all. Nomads means those dogs which have been with the nomadic people. And nomadic people can be anybody, either they can be shepherds, whoever it may be. Okay. Mongrels, they are the typical domesticated. See, nomads and this is the difference. Okay. So in case of nomads, they may not be domesticated all the time and they may not come to the city at all. But in case of mongrels, they are typically city born and bred. Okay. They are city bred, born, and they are habitated in the city only, but without any owners. They simply move from one place to another place for the sake of food. Okay. So likewise, depending upon interactions, these dogs we call it as, but there are no standard definition to say that this is house dog and this are not considered as any standard definition. Okay. This is regarding the first unit. Okay.